welcome to episode 322 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 24th of February 2025. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim,
2.5 Panteras,
Graham,
good evening,
and Will.
Let's all go down a hill in a bath.
I have no idea what you lot are on about, and I don't care, so let's just get straight on with the news. More drama with this Rust kernel business that has culminated in Linus saying, look, we've got to do it, stop moaning, we're having Rust in the kernel, like it or lump it, which is good. But on the journey to that, we've had a couple of people stepping down. We talked about how Hector Martin stepped down as the Asahi kernel maintainer. Well, now he's stepped down from Asahi completely. And then Carol Herbst has stepped down as a maintainer as well. And in Carol's email announcing that he was stepping down, he said, the moment I made up my mind about this was reading the following words written by a maintainer within the kernel community. We are the thin blue line. And that was something Ted Cho said. So I don't know, do we care about all the politics of this?
I think it's important to mention, and it's important to mention because of Linus's pragmatism, I think, perhaps. I also read Greg Crow-Hartman's post on the same thing with a similar kind of angle. I think that does show the kind of maturity we were looking for when we spoke about this last. So I think it's worth mentioning. As to the politics, I'm not too bothered about that.
I feel like Greg KH and Linus should have weighed in sooner than they did. Feels like they could have come forward and done some leadership before they did.
What did he mean by, or what do you think he meant by, being the thin blue line? Because I wonder if I've got a different opinion than everybody else.
I was going to ask the same thing because I also think I might have a different... Is your opinion that they are the barrier between things being a free-for-all and carnage and things actually working?
Yes, yeah, exactly that.
Okay, so that's what I thought.
I think that that's okay to be a thin blue line.
I would hope they are, would be the term I would use for that.
Right, but you can't say shit like that these days, can you? Because the thin blue line is specifically about the police. And in America, you've got the whole ACAB thing, all cops are bastards.
Okay, I take for granted that people have an absolute issue to be with things that are not gone right. But maybe if everybody's an American, it doesn't matter. And yes, they all know what they're talking about. But I certainly wouldn't have taken it like that. But that's speaking from my perspective, I guess.
I suspect that it was not meant like that. But I also suspect that it was a poor choice of words.
Is Ted Cho American, or is he from Europe, or where's he from? Like, should he have known that this was potentially a bad phrase to use?
No, he's American. So he should have been sensitive to this, I think, because there are a lot of people, especially in the further reaches of the left, shall we say, who are very hostile towards the police. And, you know, there's this whole defund the police business, ACAB, all the rest of it. And there's a lot of people with those kind of political views in the world of software and specifically open source. So that's why I think it was a poor choice of words.
Yeah, but I suppose Americans more than anyone are free to rename and give things a new meaning.
Yeah, exactly. And in this case, there's a bit of a gulf between the people who...
Where would the gulf be?
Certainly in America, I would have thought.
We're going to get emails tomorrow saying, what did you accomplish last week?
Well, we took the piss out of the Americans.
I did several memes of you.
And I made an AI video of Elon tickling your feet.
Oh, that was so good.
Was that using Grok?
I really, really hope it was, yes. But related to this, Terence Eden posted quite a funny thing on Mastodon. Young folks, please can we contribute using modern Git-based workflow rather than email? Old farts, no. Okay, can we at least use modern memory-safe languages? Also no. Perhaps we could modernize our language and attitudes to be more inclusive? Lol, no. Could we at least consider addressing some long-standing community issues? What part of no are you having trouble understanding? And then sometime later, the old people, why aren't there any new people contributing to our project? Truly a mystery. I mean, he's pretty spot on, isn't he?
Kinda.
Go on then, be contrarian as usual.
Well, I was going to stick up, Howard Chu, who I know works on a lot of LDAP stuff. He is also from Ireland, and his thing says Tailscale gum. So, I mean, I'm obviously going to stick for the home team here. But he did say and make a bit of a statement about, oh yeah, let's use the latest thing on the block and change to that every time because that works out really well. And he got a bit of kickback, which is fine. But the thing is, he does run an actual quite large project that a lot of people do use, and he does have a lot of active developers on his side too. So I think there is a lot to be said for stick to what suits your project, and people do have to bend towards you somewhat as well. Yes, we shouldn't all be like stuck in the past forever, but equally, you only have to go on Hacker News to see hashtag latest thing every fucking week. There's something new on there about doing it this way. Oh no, that's all wrong now. You need to do it this way. And if you do that, you can never kind of get on with things and do your actual project.
Yeah, I agree with you, Fadim. I think if you are looking to contribute to a project, then you go where that project is. If you don't like the way that they're doing those things, start a new project.
Yeah.
Use whatever language you like. I think that's fine. I understand the point is not that. And the point that Terence is making is that the stick in the muds are gatekeeping a lot of projects which need new contributors, and they're being put off by the reasons that he gave. But also, I think this unreasonable expectation to have all old projects that are perhaps 10, 15, 20 years old suddenly change language because it's not cool anymore.
Right, but we're not talking about the Linux kernel changing language. We're talking about additional drivers being added to it, being written in a modern memory-safe language rather than shitty old C.
To which the kernel maintainers have said yes.
Eventually, after a lot of fucking moaning.
With good reason. It's a massive change, right? It's a very significant introduction of an entirely new language ecosystem into the Linux kernel. This is not like a Web 2.0 hobby project, right? This is very important. It needs to be debated, and it was debated, and the right answer was reached.
Yes, but after too long, I think. I think there was a lack of leadership shown. And I don't like criticising Linus and Greg, but I think I have to here. I don't think they managed this situation particularly well. And it reminded me of with the Russian contributors being kicked out. I don't think they managed that very well either.
They have to act like adults. Like, everybody has to act like adults. You don't want to step in too early and be mommy cuddling everybody for doing a thing. Equally, you'd hope that the people who are having the conversation can have an adult conversation about it. Obviously, it didn't go like that after a while, but where do you draw the line on that?
I think I agree with Phelim and Will. There's no point rushing into something that could create much bigger problems. At least I know it was awkward and it was a difficult situation, but much better to get some perspective on the arguments, see if they can be resolved without getting involved, and then make the right judgment to have some time.
I think there's a balance there, definitely. But I think that they erred a little bit too much on the edge of caution and waiting a little bit longer than they should have, is the bottom line. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe things in the real world don't move at the speed of internet. You know, the last few weeks has felt like months and months in internet time, but in reality, it's only been a few weeks, and it's probably been about the right time. Maybe I'm wrong.
At least there was a public debate, and it was talked about rather than just being ignored entirely.
Well, in the meantime, we did an episode of Linux Dev Time about this that focused purely on the technical aspects of it. I mean, we mentioned a bit of the politics, but we didn't get into it like this. It was with me, Kevin and Andy, who are both Rust developers, not kernel developers, but Rust developers. So if you want to hear about some of the technical aspects of it, then check it out. Linux Dev Time, episode 118. I'll put a link in the show notes. Bit of a PSA, Amazon is killing a feature that let you download and back up Kindle books. So Amazon had this feature when you bought books. For older Kindles that didn't have Wi-Fi, you download them to your computer and then push them up onto the Kindle. Well, they've decided that's not happening anymore, which is bad news if you like to buy books and strip them of DRM using something like Calibre. And you've only got a few days, I think, to back up all the books that you've bought, and then you won't be able to anymore.
That's definitely worth mentioning. It's something I've definitely done for my own personal backups. I just like not having the encryption on there for those books in case I were to move away from Kindle.
I have never had a Kindle, but I have always coveted their ebook reader because it is pretty amazingly nice how it works. But that 1984 story when that happened in 2009 was the one thing that put me right off it. Now you've got essentially a EULA for the books that you're buying because you're essentially renting it from them, I saw. So, yeah, what are the bets that the EULA's longer than some of the books you read?
I have to find the link to share with Joe, but I think I read this past week that nearly all Kindles can now be rooted. So in theory, you could put a custom firmware on there or an older version of firmware on there.
Ooh.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by Tailscale. Go to tailscale.com/LNL. Tailscale is the easiest way to connect devices and services to each other, wherever they are. Everyone these days has a VPN as a sponsor, but Tailscale isn't like those. This isn't about hiding your browsing habits from coffee shop owners, and it's not about watching Netflix in another country. Tailscale is a proper VPN for connecting your devices securely. It's great for companies, and it's great for self-hosters. Tailscale gives you secure remote access to any resource anywhere in the world, whether that's databases, servers, Kubernetes, on-prem boxes, virtual private clouds, desktop PCs, 3D printers, or offsite backups in your friend's garage. Connect anything and everything you want, wherever it is, and get started in minutes. Tailscale's personal plan will always be free, so support the show and try Tailscale out for free today. You'll get up to 100 devices and 3 users for free at tailscale.com/LNL with no credit card required. That's tailscale.com/LNL. Growing Mozilla and Evolving Our Leadership. This is a post by Mark Sermon. Now, from my reading of this post, it looks like Mitchell Baker is no more at Mozilla, which, let's face it, is a good thing. I don't think she did a great job.
Unfortunately not.
It's a bit Hydra, though, isn't it? Mitchell Baker's gone, and about 17 people have popped up in her place.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like they almost get it. They're we're pretty close to getting it. That the problem was at the top. And their solution is Mozilla Leadership Council. Let's just have loads more people at the top, as you say. And their board has now got 40% new board members. That's not the problem. And he talks about the ad stuff and the AI stuff. Again, not quite getting it. It was so close, this post, to being good. It's like in Spinal Tap, there's a fine line between clever and stupid. And yeah, they just don't get it. People linked us to this saying oh, they're obviously listening to you. But maybe they were sort of background listening or something. Maybe they just sort of got it on while they're reading a paper or something. They just didn't quite get what everyone... It's not just us, is it? Come on, it's everybody in the community has been saying this shit to them. And yeah, close but no cigar.
I will say, one of the people on the Mozilla Leadership Council is Jane Silver, who used to be the CEO of Canonical 10 years ago. And she is excellent. So there's hope yet.
Which part of Mozilla is she helping with?
Well, let's not go into that.
Oh, Mozilla.ai. Oh, right. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool.
What TLD is that for? Is that what country is that?
Yeah, I can't remember that one.
Arsehole Island.
Come on, they're empowering developers with trustworthy AI.
Oh, good. Good for them.
Yet another reason not to use Chrome. We've got a link to a BBC article which references a blog post from Google talking about how they're changing the rules effectively about Chrome. And now they're going to allow proper fingerprinting, which is something of an about turn. So I know we like to shit on Mozilla, but there are so many reasons to use Firefox. And this is a big one of them.
There seems to be some uncertainty about exactly what it is that's going on here, because the articles that I've read say that Chrome is going to start collecting things like IP addresses and forwarding them on. But Chrome already had this, so I don't know. And if you read the BBC article, it talks about Google complaining that things like smart TVs and consoles meant that it was hard to target ads to users. Boo-hoo. And I don't really understand whether it's Chrome that's getting this new feature or whether it's just Google saying, now, fuck it, we're just collecting all of this information now. Either way, it's really not good news. But why, you may ask? But my primary concern, or not mine personally, but my main worry here is that if they start lumping things together based on IP address, that means that potentially everybody in your house is going to be lumped together in the same pool of users. And so you're going to start seeing adverts targeted at other people in your house.
Uh-oh.
So what concerns you about that, Will? Is it your browsing or somebody else's?
We'll get into that in a minute. What is more of a concern is that people on things like Community Fibre, which use so-called carrier-grade NAT, which then pump thousands of users through a single IP address, is in one way undermining all of Google's efforts to try and tie you back to a particular IP address. But at worst means that perhaps, you're seeing what your neighbors are up to. I'm not overly concerned by this, of course. monkeyjpegs.com is a business website, you'll all agree. And so that doesn't bother me. But what if my kids were Googling, I don't know, whatever issues of the day teenagers care about, or my neighbours' kids were Googling this and it started popping up. Like, I can tell what my kids are looking at on the internet based on the adverts that I get. And it's fine. But what happens when it's not fine? Google just don't give a shit anymore. And it's very scary about the sorts of information that could leak to your friends and neighbours by Google wanting to target you more directly with adverts.
Well, Will, I'm going to tell you something great. They don't need to do that because they run the browser and they run everything in it and they can run everything that's attached to their ad side of things. They know exactly who you are and what you do all the time. So it's fine. Problem solved.
Well, I'm convinced.
This is important. And all of the shit that we give Mozilla, really, we could multiply 1 million times for Chrome and Google. And we don't. And maybe that does reflect our not so much balance. It's just that perhaps we've written off Google and Chrome.
Oh, completely. Yeah, we're judging them by completely different standards.
Yeah, and that's not fair. This is shit. Chrome has been shit for years. It's been such a terrible threat to our privacy. Totally against how Google initially started. I'm kind of resigned to it, and I just assume that Google's already doing this. So I suppose, I don't know, I hate to say it. I should care, but I don't. But we should use Firefox.
Especially if Google are locking down ad blockers and privacy tools from their extension store, then soon you're only going to be able to get those tools from Mozilla's store. So go Mozilla.
And what are the bets that they eventually turn off everything but DNS over HTTP and it goes to their servers? I mean, just to make sure. Because, I mean, do you believe that they'll leave it as using your local network one? I fucking don't, because I'll have a pie hole on it that'll tell it to go and fuck itself.
Part of me feels also that we're old and past it in caring about these things. Younger generations really do seem to overshare to such an extent that I don't see them ever changing or caring what Google does, how they're fingerprinted and how their data leaks onto the web when they're sharing selfies themselves every 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, you've heard of Google. Now get ready for the Chinese Communist Party, effectively, with TikTok. Like, they've all got fucking TikTok and they don't give a shit, do they? And I know that's a bit xenophobic, but still, like, you would not see TikTok on my phone. I don't even like going to their website.
100%, yeah.
But YouTube Shorts, that's all fine by me.
Okay, well, sort of.
We are living in a post-privacy society. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody really minds. It's just the way that it is. And I'm sure that this has happened before, perhaps with the advent of commercial TV. You know, previously you didn't have adverts on the TV and then suddenly you did, and that was all just fine and dandy. And now look where we are with Amazon sticking adverts on stuff you've already paid for.
You lot sound so fucking old right now, man.
I know, right?
Even I think you sound old, so that's not a good sign.
We still have the power to kind of sidestep all of these things. That's what I really don't want to lose. We still have Linux and we still have open source. We still have Firefox. It would be a step backwards, but I'd be prepared to curtail my use of the internet if it meant avoiding services which were so onerous on their lack of privacy and spying on me. But I could see that's just going to be a one-way street in the future. And as soon as, in 10 years when I'm dead, we've lost.
We're all going to be dead, Graham.
Yeah. We've not failed. I feel like we're wrong to care. I don't get it. But, I mean, I've got two kids. They just don't care. They do care in certain ways and then don't in huge other ways. And convenience basically trumps everything.
And what happens if AOSP becomes essentially a dead product if, Fuchsia takes off. Yeah, more likely that Google Play encompasses absolutely everything except a bootloader or something like that on thing. And then you don't have anything in a mobile operating system that's not tracked 100%.
I do feel like we've reached some kind of technical plateau, though, where we're not going to miss out on some major... I mean, who cares about AI on our phones? We're not going to miss out on anything by sticking on phones that are 5 or 10 years old or an internet that's 5 or 10 years old. We're only going to miss more exploitation.
It would be nice to have security updates, though.
And how's your phone going to fold in half if it's not brand new?
Has it snapped yet, Joe?
Not yet.
So 1 week then.
But I was showing it off again the other day on a video call, and someone commented, "You are closing that very carefully, aren't you, Joe?" And I said, yes, I am. Okay, this episode is sponsored by 1Password. Do your end users always, and I mean always without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device, because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management is security for the way we work today, and it's now generally available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. 1Password's award-winning password manager is trusted by millions of users and over 150,000 businesses, from IBM to Slack. And now they're securing more than just passwords with 1Password Extended Access Management. Secure every app, device, and identity, even the unmanaged ones, at 1password.com/late-night-linux, all lowercase. That's 1password.com/late-night-linux. On to a bit of admin then. First of all, thank you everyone who supports us with PayPal and Patreon. We really do appreciate that. If you want to join those people, you can go to late-night-linux.com/support. And remember that for various amounts on Patreon, you can get an advert-free RSS feed of either just this show or all the shows in the Late Night Linux family. And you even get some episodes early. And if you want to get in contact, you can email show@latenightlinux.com. We talked about the UK government demanding that Apple backdoor their end-to-end encryption for iCloud. Well, Apple have just pulled that feature in the UK now.
Cool.
And they're not allowed to acknowledge that the UK government demanded that they insert the backdoor. And this probably isn't going to satisfy them. But this is almost like a warrant canary type thing. So good on Apple, I think.
Really?
And here comes failing to argue with me. But I think this is all they could have done, and it's fair enough.
Yeah, like for a second that I don't believe that the CIA hasn't turned up at their door and told them to do something. If they even try anything, they'll kneecap Tim Cook live on TV. No, for sure that they've done that. It's just this happened to be a foreign, in inverted commas, power that asked them to do it. So what they did was have a childish throw the toys out of the pram moment. So it means that the people who use an Apple device in the UK are completely fucked for their backups getting stolen because these guys are being immature about it. And yes, I completely understand that the whole reason of having end-to-end encrypted backups is the fact that only you can have your own backups, but you and the government is a damn sight better than you and a completely unencrypted backup.
I'm less convinced that this is a problem than failing, partly because I didn't even know this feature existed, and partly because I don't really understand who is going to be affected by this. You can still make a backup of your phone using iTunes on your Windows PC or your Mac, and you can take that backup and you can encrypt it with GPG or whatever it is that you want. So the only use case that I can think of is that you are a baddie who wants to back up their phone and encrypt it in iCloud. And I don't really understand who those people are.
How long have MI6 been delivering those flares next to your house?
Come on, Will. That's not right at all, is it? Like, end-to-end encryption should be available to all. It should be default. All our backups should be encrypted. It shouldn't be available to a privileged few who know what GPG is.
Look, let's stop pretending that big companies have everybody's needs in mind. If a company can be asked by a security service to do something, they're going to be asked, and realistically, they're going to have to do it. So don't use their provided tools. Don't use their cloud, because that's just stupid. But then again, don't use it on a device where it's completely controlled in a walled garden of one company. Don't use an iPhone.
But also, what are you backing up with this encrypted backup?
Photos, documents.
Terrorist plans? I mean, who knows?
Photos of your kids, although I suppose they'll just be sending selfies to Snapchat and stuff anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Well, Phelim is wrong, and this was a good move by Apple. This was them sticking two fingers up at the government in the UK, saying, fuck you.
It's a distraction by the NSA.
You're such a conspiracy theorist.
Totally.
Matrix posts, we're at a crossroads. And in this post, they basically say they don't really have enough money and they're a bit fucked, basically. And if they don't get a load of money very quickly, then bridges are basically going away. This is just an age-old story, isn't it? Open source project doesn't have enough money, struggling to be funded.
Okay, but at least they are asking. And we have seen up till recently that once projects actually do ask, there are people willing to give money. So if there are other projects out there, maybe don't wait as long until it's desperate and try and get people into it earlier.
Yeah, I've been banging this drum for ages now. Be straight and upfront about it.
Honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I was just reading about the post. They need an additional $610,000 in revenue to break even, but they're looking for $100,000 to extend their runway by 1 month. Last year, they doubled their revenue to $561,000. These numbers are probably small by Mozilla's standards, but it still seems like quite a healthy amount. Also, I feel like a project like, maybe I'm being a bit mean, but the kind of foundational aspects of a federated project like Matrix shouldn't be reliant on the health of the funding or the health of the foundation. It should be just part of the design, shouldn't it?
Well, I think one of their big outgoings is the Matrix home server, matrix.org. It costs an awful lot of money to run a big Matrix server, is the bottom line.
Do they do? Okay, so I should be answering my own question. I'm sorry, but I would totally subscribe to the Matrix server and pay a subscription to use the Matrix server as I would any other service, and I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Well, you can become a member.
Yeah.
It's much more of a voluntary situation.
Yeah.
And they kind of make a good point about making Matrix accessible and visible. And they say, for the general public, it means maintaining an easy default onboarding server, matrix.org. And you could say the same of Mastodon, right? Like, you need mastodon.social to make it easy for people. I want to get a Mastodon. Okay, so, right, default, next. Right, I've now got a Mastodon account on Mastodon Social without thinking about it. Not thinking, maybe I should be on Foston or maybe I should be on Hackaderm or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that it is fair enough to have a default server, and that costs a lot of money.
I totally agree, Joe, but I feel just having a look at netflix.com and then matrix.org, the subscription part of Netflix is almost the first thing you see. And I think it would be okay for Matrix to say voluntary subscription of, $5 a month or something.
So I, after hearing this, have decided that I was going to pay and I was going to become a individual member. And I clicked on it and then I got very confused because it said membership monthly. And I thought, okay, $5. They seem to say that $60 per year is like the basic of what they need. And that's saying something like $5 quadratic, $10 polynomial, and $50 elliptic. Like, what? What's going on? I don't understand. Am I in maths? Did I just wake up? Is my exam tomorrow and I didn't even know? Fuck.
You're already in the exam and you've got your pants on. Yeah, you've got $5 and they'll help you with your quadratic equations. And yeah, that is very fucking confusing, quite frankly.
I assume it's some form of hilarious humor that I'm just too thick to understand, but I will become a quadratic equation, I guess.
Very confusing indeed, but hopefully they will make their goal and sort this out. But honestly, if bridges die, nothing of value was lost. Don't at me, especially over a bridge. Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when it'll probably be some discoveries and maybe a bit of feedback. Until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelim.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.